Hi friends, it's Mitzi, and today I thought I would explore singer, songwriter, and performer Selena's natal chart. She would have turned 50 this year. So without further ado, let me get started. So Selena, this is what her natal chart looks like. Her big three are her Aries sun, Sagittarius moon. She's an Aquarius rising. The AC, the ascendant, the descendant, the IC, and the MC are all in fixed signs: Aquarius, Leo, Taurus, Scorpio, telling me that this was a person that once she made up her mind about something, she would dig in her heels. Fixed signed people tend to be stubborn and very passionate about their beliefs. So again, just at a glance, Selena has an Earth grand trine. She has Mars in Capricorn, Pluto in Virgo, and Saturn in Taurus. And that tells me that her approach, which Mars again is your drive, it's your approach, and her focus, which would be Pluto, was very disciplined. So these are harmonious aspects. This blue triangle here are harmonious aspects that allowed her to easily accomplish her goals. People with kites tend to really manifest their opportunities, right? There's people who think about their goals and there's people who plan their goals and act on them. If you have a kite, you have an easier time accomplishing the things that you manifest. Selena also had a T-square that connected her first, 8th, and 11th houses. The T-square is the red triangle here. So Venus opposing Pluto, squaring the moon squaring Venus. This is a tension point that she had to navigate her entire life. All right, so let's start with the angles. Her IC down here represents her private home life. It also represents the kind of childhood she had and the future home that she would set up for herself. It's a very sensitive angle. Her IC is in Taurus, and normally people with IC in Taurus tend to have a heavy focus on finances, on material things. They really value possessions, and their self-worth is really tied to their possessions. Asteroid Ceres is how one nurtures, right? It's how you give unconditional love. It's how you receive unconditional love. It's right next to the sensitive IC angle, which is an indicator that the way she contributed to her family, the way she showed unconditional love was through, financial resources, being a part of their financial resources and helping them out with financial resources. Mercury is in its house, its domicile in the third, but Saturn is also there, and they're both in Taurus. So she may have had a hard time speaking up or speaking out about the pressures she may have felt with her family business. Also, asteroid Dejanira right here. It's an asteroid that shows where in your life you are going to be victimized, wherever it appears in your chart. In her case, it appears in the 4th house, the house of family, house of roots, and it's close to her IC, this really, delicate point. So there's a possibility that she may have felt victimized or been victimized by her family or family business. Part of fortune, this guy right here shows where your wealth will come from. So wherever he is in your chart shows you what kind of, how you could make your wealth. In her case, it's in her 4th house of family. So any wealth would come her way due to family ties, but it is close, it's conjunct Nessa's the asteroid of abuse. That could be read as any success she would have had tied to her family could have been painful for her. So now let's talk about her MC, her reputation in the 10th house. That's your house of career and ambition and how your colleagues see you. It's in Scorpio. She has a Scorpio midheaven, in other words, which meant that she had a really intense and deep relationship with her career. This was a major focus of her life, and it being in Scorpio, it meant that she was probably really private about some details about her career and the way she went about it. She has Neptune here conjunct her MC, which tells me that she was probably projected on a lot, and different people may have had varying opinions about her, projecting their views of her to her. And this may have been difficult for her because it would have made her feel pressure to fit into different molds for people. Jupiter is also in her house of career. This is an indicator of fame, or in her case, international fame. But if you have Jupiter in your 10th house, it just means you will be well known in your industry. And she was obviously very well known in hers. Okay, so moving on to ascendant and descendant. Your ascendant or your rising sign are the first impressions people have of you. Your descendant is what you're looking for in relationships. She was an Aquarius rising. Aquarius risings tend to put the collective before themselves. And they also tend to stand out. The way they walk, the way they behave, the way they talk. There's something a little quirky about them, the way they dress. And it also makes them really passionate and rebellious. Her first house is ruled by Aquarius, but is intercepted by Pisces. She has her North Node there. Your North Node in your natal chart is your karmic destiny. It's who you're meant to be in this life. And so you spend your life working towards it. In the first house, it means that her karmic destiny was to find independence and to put herself first. Which may have been hard given that she was an Aquarius rising when she's thinking of others instead of herself. But her destiny really was to put herself and her needs first and to find a balance between her needs and the needs of her surrounding. With Venus and Pisces in the first house, that shows a person that was openly affectionate, loving, gregarious. Venus in the first is also an indicator of beauty, physical beauty, and she was a beautiful woman. Venus opposing Pluto tells me that she was an intense partner. She could be an intense person, but it also manifests in a different way in that people with Venus opposing Pluto also tend to attract intense people, people who have obsessive tendencies or difficult personalities. So her descendant, or what she finds attractive in relationships, is in Leo. So she may have been drawn to partners that shine, either because, they're Leos or Leo-like, or she would have been attracted to partners that let her shine. And with Leo ruling her 7th house, it would be easy for her to also make friends with other fire signs because of her moon and her sun placements. So the 2nd and 8th axis talk about security, financial security, and deep emotional, secretive security, right? Her 2nd house is ruled by Pisces, but intercepted by Aries. This is the asteroid that shows you where you are wounded in life, and the way to heal is by healing others. Her Chiron in the 2nd means that she may have been wounded or felt wounded by her financial responsibilities. It must have felt like a heavy burden on her shoulder. She may have been pained by her possessions or ownerships, her ownership of things, or people feeling ownership over her, and perhaps even her sense of self-worth could have been affected by that. Asteroid Pallas right here shows where you shine in your artistic endeavors, and notice that it's located in her 2nd house, which indicates that her artistic talent would contribute to her financial success, but it's conjunct Chiron, which indicates that she would also be wounded by her artistic success. People with Sun in the 2nd house tend to have a deep need for financial security. It was extremely important for her. And her Sun here conjuncts Mercury. It squares Mars. Sun conjunct Mercury tells me that she was a very social, chatty Cathy. She was a talker, loved to communicate with others, was not shy about piping in. But with Sun squaring Mars, it can indicate that she either had a tendency to be aggressive with people, or that she attracted aggressive people in her life. And so here's yet another indicator of something about her either drawing aggressive, intense people into her life, or putting herself in a situation where she would have to be aggressive. Her 8th house is ruled by Virgo, but is intercepted by Libra. And that T-square, that red triangle that I mentioned earlier, is here. That apex in the moon adds extra pressure to the 5th house, which is your house of entertainment, children, gambling, your creativity, your hobby. So she felt a deep emotional pressure to be successful and balance her creative side. Her Mars squares Uranus, but a trine to her ascendant. So this would have made her someone that had a deep need to be authentic and to express her authentic self. Her Pluto in conjuncts her sun, this can be a difficult placement because this gives someone a level of seriousness and intensity to push through, but some people might not take kindly. They might be a little intimidated by that drive, by ideas that this person might have. And so there would be a lot of opposition there that she would have to face. With Pluto squaring her moon, that's an extra layer of intensity. It makes people who have this placement obsessive about the things and the people that they love. So again, she was a formidable force. She had a voice, but at times may have been stifled by it. Her third house, we talked briefly about earlier, ruled by Taurus. Saturn is opposing her midheaven. So Saturn, here's her midheaven. This is an aspect that can bring loneliness, and she may have felt like an outcast even amongst her group. She had no planets in the 9th house, though. So let's go back to that 5th and 11th axis, the apex of the T-square. Her 5th house is ruled by Gemini and her 11th by Sagittarius. The asteroid Juno, which is this guy over here, is considered the marriage asteroid, and the asteroid Child is considered your inner child. And both of those things are in her 5th house. And what that tells me is that performing or being artistic really brought out her inner child, really tapped into that innocence in her. And Juno placed here tells me that anyone she would view as marital, like as a good marital choice, would have been found in that world. And as we know, her husband was in her band, so she did meet him in the world of entertainment, which is what the 5th house is about. Her 6th and 12th houses is the acts of service axis, right? Her 6th house is ruled by Cancer and intercepted by Leo. Asteroid Hygeia, which is right here, is the asteroid that shows how we care for ourselves, our hygiene, our health, our illness. And in the house of work, this asteroid tells me that Selena may have used her work as a form of self-care. Her 12th house over here is ruled by Capricorn, and is intercepted by Aquarius. Her Mars is in Capricorn in the 12th house. Mars in Capricorn is actually a great placement because these people get shit done, right? They really accomplish their goals in ways that others struggle with. But in the 12th house, it shows that that drive could be slightly repressed. It also shows that she may have had repressed anger. Asteroid Vesta right here shows what areas in your life you are devoted to and how deeply you devote yourself to something. And it's also your sacred feminine. Her Vesta is in Capricorn, which means that her sacred feminine may have been dimmed a little bit because Capricorn is a masculine sign. So while she was alive, her divineness may have been dimmed. But because the 12th house is a spiritual house, her light shines brighter later, right? Capricorn in this placement also shows that she may have had a lot of tension with authority figures or people she viewed as authority figures, and she may have deferred to their decisions, but she may have resented it. So this was her chart placement, guys, and we saw how her family karma really played out in her motivations. We saw where fame and how fame played out as well, and the cultural impact that she had. And I'm sad she's no longer with us, but I'm grateful that her music exists. Thanks so much for coming on this natal chart journey with me. Have a wonderful day.